Okay, after action report. And who has won? So basically, the Ferris Outrider is worth 2 victory points, the Voidcaster is worth 2 victory points, and the Vizier of Conjuration is worth 4 victory points. Without any schemes, the Helion League managed to score 8 victory points. And the other way around, the Helion Expatriate is worth 4 because leader and 3 for her point value. The Helion Expatriate is worth 2 victory points, no schemes, therefore 6 points for the Sand Kingdoms. It's a 6-8 win for the Helion League. So, the Helion League managed to win. And what do I think about this game? It was really sad that the Hierophant was put down immediately because of the Voidcaster, who was immediately within range and had a few lucky rolls, won the confrontation, and was able to incapacitate the Hierophant. So therefore she will be hopefully better in the next games. But that shows that the Voidcaster, who was basically useless in the last game, was essential this game. The Vizier of Conjuration, it was all in all shown how important it was with the summoning of the Golem, who immediately put the Expatriate into difficulty, and the Gargoyles, who also managed to harass, not do very much, but harass the opponents. And I think about a less good armored opponent than the Citadel Guard, I think the Gargoyles could also do serious damage. So, the Citadel Guard, as usual, I think is a really strong model in the game. It is really defensive and it is really difficult to put down, especially since with her immune resistance 2 against sorcery and enchantment, she basically nullified the Voidcaster and the Vizier, which was also why I used the Ferris Outrider instead of the Academy Expeditioner, because the Expeditioner can also do nothing against the Citadel Guard, even when she only is on the field. She would be invulnerable, and this is something I don't know how I feel about it, because when one model is able to nullify basically a whole faction, I don't like that. I think this is the best way to put it. I do not think that it is unfair, because it is the whole deal of this model, but I don't like it very much. It is legit, absolutely, but it doesn't sit right, just to stress it once more. So with this, what do I say? Or what do I think about it? I think the Camp Red mission is more narrative than anything else, because the defender is right from the start at the back foot, at least in my game here. But it is quite interesting because it is more narrative. When I came up with this idea, when yesterday I read the article about the different parts of the Sand Kingdoms and the Silver Bay, immediately got my eye, or got my attention, and I imagined, okay, the Sand Kingdoms could try a small revolution to put out or to expel an expatriate force of the Helion League, which would be a nice narrative idea why there's an Hierophant included, because as far as I understood it, they are essential for the expeditions of the Helion League. So with all this said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye! Having to go all offense, he will cast Ethereal Blade onto himself. And now the Ferris Outrider will attack the Helion Expatriate, which will cause a reaction by the Citadel Guard, who will use to... Actually, she cannot get into base contact because she is not allowed to get onto the base of another model, even if it's incapacitated. Therefore, only one attack for the Helion Expatriate, who will defend himself. So let's see what the result is. And the expatriate rolled a 19, not enough to be relevant for the confrontation. A 3 and a 6 is enough to wound the Helion expatriate. Hit him, sorry. To wound is now 13 or less. 2 13s, which is enough to, first of all, remove the other activation point. Second, put him into the incapacitated state. So now both leaders are down, and the decisive victory cannot be won for the Helion expatriates anymore. I think with this, since it's the third turn of the Sand Kingdoms, the Pharaoh's Outrider has an offense of 14 against a defense of 16, so a difference of 2, defense of 11 and offense of 12 for the Citadel Guard. But since he gets -6 anyway, this is most likely a lost cause. Yeah, he will try and fish for critical hits and attack the Citadel Guard, and the Citadel Guard will defend herself. So, first of all, he has to make an agility check of 12 or less. It's a 7, which is enough, so he can keep his 2 attacks. The black die needed 14 or less, the white die need 16 or less. 14 or less the black die, 17 and 20 not enough. 16 or less for the white die, which are both enough. Power 15 against the armor of 1, because he used the ethereal blade enchantment, sorry. And with this, my armor piercing of the small bludgeoning, therefore armor 0. So 15 or less to wound. 2 and a 9, 2 wounds is enough to put the Pharaoh's Outrider also out of action. And with this, the Helion League wins. They do not gain decisive victory because not all party members are alive. Let me just clean up the board. I will calculate the victory points and I'll see you for the after action report. Okay, so with this, the second turn of the Helion League begins, and it starts with the expatriate casting once again Burning Touch onto himself to get sweep 1 and burn 1. He will use his first activation to make a dodge, which will cause a whole row or a lot of reactions, starting with the Vizier, who will just make, so basically dodge, attack, attack, attack. The Vizier will dodge 2.5 inches, so roughly around here, to get away. Actually, the Spell Dancer will also make a dodge, not an attack, to go up to here, stand in a way. Then there are 2 attacks, and he will do a dodge, so let me roll a dodge. With a 3, the dodge is successful, and I will just roll 1 attack for the Pharaoh's Outrider with a defense of 11. He would have hit, but it's not a critical hit, and the similar for the Gargoyle. Is it a critical hit? It is not, even if it's below its defense. So he managed to dodge 3 inches, and he will use that to dodge up to here. And now he will risk an attack of opportunity from the white caster to get with 5 inches into contact with the Vizier. The attack of opportunity is within 1 inch, and since she has the casting amplifier, she can use the ethereal blades spell, which has 5 in the active, 3 in the reactive row strikes. They have an effect. An attack with this spell receives different effects depending on the number of successful attack rolls, regardless of the confrontation rule. The higher combo results also includes the effect of the lower. 2 hits is a power +6 as a power +6. 3 hits is armor piercing and 2 hits power +6, 3 hits is armor piercing, 4 hits is stagger, and 5 hits if the target becomes incapacitated, you automatically render it dead. So with 3 hits it can go up to there. Now she will try the Spectral Greatsword because it has sweep 1, armor piercing and stagger. And the stagger is what she really wants, so she reacts with an attack of opportunity. 14 or less. 17, it is not enough to hit him. So now he will use his attack action. The Vizier of Conjuration will make a confrontation by using Mana Blast because she has an intelligence of 16 and only agility of 10. Which is why I believe that the confrontation is the smarter decision to do. So let's see, the Helion Expatriate has 2 dice, the Vizier has only 1. The 3 of the Vizier is really good, but it is cancelled out by the 11 and the natural 1. So sorry, I turned around the other way around. Was a good roll, but it was not good enough. So we have 2 hits, 1 ignoring the armor of 0 for the Vizier of Conjuration. And the 11 is also enough to hit, so no armor. This is why I roll both of them together. 1 12 or less and the Vizier of Conjuration is incapacitated. And 9 and a 7, which are 2 wounds. And as I just learned about the in the Discord, she's not immediately dead, but she's incapacitated because if her hit points are dropped to 0, she will go down. And now let me just have a look at the Conjuration. Well, is it enough if she's incapacitated that the summons will be dispelled? Where are the spells? No. Here we are. Conjure summon, mana cost, create a summon. Caster, conjuration. Caster cannot summon more. To the field, summoned by the spell, conjure mana cost. Okay, let's go systematically. Can only be cast or active rogue. Caster summoned. The creature receive activation points. Summoned. Here. When the caster of conjured spell becomes incapacitated or dead, the creatures summoned to the field are removed from the field at the end of the activation sequence. It was in the box text. So, end of the activation sequence, and with this, the Gargoyle and the Golem both are dispelled. So, and this is enough because the Sankims have no first aid kit or healing methods, so therefore the Vizier is out of action and not relevant anymore. And now the Citadel Guard will use a run action to run up to here. And in her next activation, she will use a walk action to get into contact with the defenseless Voidcaster, which will cause a reaction of the Outrider, who will use a dodge action to reposition himself and just stay a little bit outside of her engagement range. But still a small cudgel attacking the Voidcaster. With a 10, it is actually hit with the offense of 12. Power of 15 minus armor 5 because of the arcane shield. So a 10 or less. A 3 is enough to wound. And with this, the Voidcaster is also out of action. So, and that was the turn of the, well, nearly the turn, I nearly forgot. The expatriate will walk into contact with this ranger class with the Ferris Outrider. So now, really successful second turn for the Helion League. Incapacitated 2 models, the Vizier, the most important piece, and the Whitecaster. Therefore, they have no the strength in number, which is the scheme of the Sand Kingdoms, and there's only the Ferris Outrider left. So I will prepare the turn of the Ferris Outrider, and I'll let you join then. Before I start the turn of the Sand Kingdoms, the Helion Expatriate uses his Ranger class to get into to make a normal move and get into contact with the Vizier of Conjuration once again. So, with this said, let's start the next turn of the Sand Kingdoms. She will use the stratagem Refined Conjuration, therefore reducing the summoning cost by 1. He will cast Spectral Blade onto himself. She will cast Arcane Shield onto herself. And with this, the Ferris Outrider will begin. He will make a run action. 6 inches, around 8 inches. He's here, and with 10 inches, because he is taller than the wall, he will get into contact with the Helion Expatriate, who will, at the moment, will not react. Then the Voidcaster will use a dodge action to cancel the engage state, where the Citadel Guard will activate and try to smack her with her small bludgeon. So the white die for the Citadel Guard, who's in her reactive role, and therefore gets another attack. That is quite a nasty ability with the Sentinel. So, 2 attacks with a defense of 16 against the Voidcaster's agility of 14. The Voidcaster manages to dodge, and otherwise the Citadel Guard would have hit her. Just as since a comment on my last video mentioned it, this is not an opposed roll. I just do this because I think it makes the recording a little bit quicker. So if the dodge is successful, nevertheless, there's not a comparison to the confrontation roll. It cancels all except the critical hits. So basically I just check for critical hits, and this is not the case, but this would be a real example to highlight that this is not a confrontation roll, because in a confrontation the Citadel Guard would have won a confrontation with a roll of 16, but since it's a dodge and not a confrontation, the 9 cancelled out all non-critical hits. Just as a clarification in general to my videos and recordings. So with this, the Voidcaster is able to leave the engagement with the Citadel Guard. And now what we are doing here. The Ferris Outrider will strike the Helion Expatriate, or will attack him. And the Helion will make a confrontation. He will use his valuable activation against the Vizier to defend himself. So 14 for the Ferris Outrider and a 13 for the Helion Expatriate. The Helion fails with a 19 above his value, and then 119 for the Ferris Outrider and a 6. So the 6 for the Ferris Outrider is enough to hit the Helion Expatriate. And since he previously casted, a Spectral Blade onto himself, it's Ignore Armor and Stagger. And with the Stagger quality, the Helion loses his other activation, which is quite devastating. And a chance to wound the Expatriate with a 13 or less. It's an 18, it is no wound. Which doesn't hinder the Vizier of Conjuration, first of all, to transfer one of her activations into a mana token. Actually, no, she does not need that, because she can just use a summoning ritual to summon a gargoyle because she used refined conjuration. To place the gargoyle close by, the gargoyle gets 2 activations. Then she will use her remaining activation to dodge 2.5 inches away. Yeah, that looked about to be right. Here we are, more or less. And then let's start with the gargoyle, who will activate and attack the defenseless Helion expatriate. 2 attacks, needing a 12 or less to hit. There's 2. Power of 12 against armor of 6, 6 or less to wound. This is a 4. It's the first wound. And since the gargoyle managed to cause a wound, it regains another activation point. Next attack. Natural 1 and a 7 both hit. The natural 1 also ignores the armor. First, the one who does not ignore the armor, and 18 is not enough. A 12 or less, 20 is also not enough. The final activation of the gargoyle this turn. 5 and 3 both are enough to hit, needing a 6 or less to wound. 8 and 18 is not enough. The Helion expatriate is still standing. The golem will also just stand where he is, but the Voidcaster is still able to activate. She will walk up to here and then has a straight line with 10 inches to cast her Void Lance. 14 or less. It's a 9, this is enough. Power of 14 minus the armor of 6, therefore 8 or less to wound. And this is a 15. Still alive. And the golem just stays there and will not do anything, just to keep the Citadel Guard busy. So, that was the second turn of the Sand Kingdoms. Quite a lot happened. The Helion expatriate is wounded and he has to get into contact with the Vizier to turn this game around. Let's see if he will manage in his turn. Okay, first turn of the Helion League. The Helion expatriate will cast with his artificial claws, non-surprisingly burning touch onto himself. Not burning touch, or let me see. Yes, it is burning touch, sorry. Melting touch is the other one. And with burning touch he has sweep 1. And burn 1. And he will immediately use a run action to run 5 inches up to here and another 5 inches up to here. And with this, the Voidcaster will react. She will use a dodge action to reposition 3 inches, going up to here. And the Ferrous Outrider will also activate, repositioning 2.5 inches, going back behind the golem a little bit. And the Vizier of Conjuration would have been able to see through the window his repositioning here, as you can see here. Therefore she will also activate, and she will use an attack action to cast a quick mana burst at him, which has the stagger quality, so 16 or less. 14 is enough. As I said, power 16 minus the armor 6, 10 or less to wound. It's a 13, which is not enough. So, now let's see. With 5 inches and 10 inches, he is able to get into contact with the Vizier of Conjuration. And he will just do that. And the Vizier will react by using a dodge action to immediately cancel this and dodging back to here with her 2.5 inches. So, Once again, these two are allowed to activate. Knowing that all hangs in the balance with the Vizier, they will once again dodge to get a little bit closer. Here we are. And now the Citadel Guard will also use a run action and to ignore the Golem and get into contact with the spell Voidcaster. Here we are. And the Golem will react to this by dodging 2 inches towards her. And now the Citadel Guard once again will try to attack, and the Golem is just outside of the 2 inches. Actually, I think he should be within reach. I didn't measure it. So the Golem will react, use his Protector skill, and defend against the Citadel Guard to protect the Spelldancer Voidcaster. So the Golem rolling a die, agility he failed. Actually, since he's in his reactive role, he wouldn't be allowed anyway. But let's see what it says. Remove the from the model during the deployment. If the summoned creature would be removed from the field, you may return this upgrade to the model originally assigned with it and reassign it to an... okay, so I can reassign it immediately. So therefore he has the Sentinel class, and which means that he would normally have 2. And the Hyperia Province is upgraded melee attack. Okay, so therefore it is also in the reactive. Normally 1 because reactive, +1 for the Sentinel, -1 for Hyperia Province because he failed his agility check. Therefore, the Citadel Guard has 2 strikes. Actually, no, only 1 because it is her active role, and the Golem has only 1 to defend. So, offense is 12 of the Citadel Guard, defense of the Golem is 13. The Golem wins the confrontation with a 4, the Citadel Guard rolled a 14. Therefore, the Golem is allowed to hit her. Actually, no, the Golem rolled... I have to reroll it because I forgot the result. The Golem nevertheless gets -6, so it is not 13, it is only an 8. 8 against the... Yeah, 8 is enough for because he rolled a 5, sorry. Okay, he still hits. And he has a power of 15 minus armor 6, therefore 9 or less. It's a 6. This is enough to wound the Citadel Guard. So, this was a desperate, I would say, turn of the Helion League. So I prepare the Sand Kingdom's second turn, and we'll see how this continues. Hello and welcome to another Let's Play of Eldfall Chronicles. Today we are playing the Camp Raid quest, and we have the Sand Kingdoms against the Helion expatriates. And for the Helions who will take on the defender role, we have the Helion expatriate with the first aid upgrade. We have the Citadel Guard with my favorite upgrade for her, the Hyperia Providence. And today we have the expatriary Hierophant with the gift of longevity. Therefore she has +1 intelligence, and with this a total of intelligence 16, which is why she drew 3 scheme cards. For the aggressors of the Sand Kingdoms, we have the Spelldancer Voidcaster. Once again with her casting amplifier, I hope that she can show today a little bit more of her abilities, even when the Citadel Guard nullifies any sorcerer spells, therefore basically all of her. But for this we have the Ferrous Outrider, who is can hopefully enchant himself with his Spectral Ray to get through her armor. And once again we have the Vizier of Conjuration, this time with the Personal Guard and Conjured Retinue upgrade. I will just play a little bit around with it. I will see how much I can get into the summoning of the cheap units of Gargoyles and Golems. Therefore, I hope that with the Conjured Reunion, which gives all tier 1 and 2 creatures the Soldier class, that I can enchant these to basically all of the Sand Kings is again countering the Citadel Guard. And the Personal Guard is just to give one creature the Sentinel class to better protect the Vizier of Conjuration. And so let's see what scheme cards they drew. Stand Your Ground, which is basically the one that in my last game, caused the Sand Kingdoms to lose. Inital Expedition is you gain victory points for every model outside of the deployment zone, not counting summoned creatures. And Strength in Number is 2 victory points if you have more models alive than the opponent, including summoned creatures. So I will play it safe and do the Strength in Number, since the Vizier of Conjuration is already the lynch point of this party. And for the Helion Expatriates, we have Decisive Victory, receive 3 victory points. All the party members are alive at the end of the game. Last Warning, reveal the scheme during the strategic phase. And during the end phase, if your models do not declare attack until your next strategic phase, you receive 3 victory points. And Relentless Advance is 2 victory points for each model, up to 6 victory points, which is a lot, for every party member beyond the middle of the field at the end of this turn. I would go with this, but I'm not sure, because in camp raid, since the Helion Expatriates are starting here within 6 inches around the campfire, which is in the center of the map, and the aggressor starts 6 inches away from this. I believe it was 6 inches, or is it 10 inches outside of the center of the field? Yeah, so 6 inches away. Therefore, there is no middle line, basically. I think I will do Relentless Advance anyway. And I will say if the models are more than half of the field, then they receive the victory point. But while thinking about it, with the Hierophant and with the first aid of the Expatriate, I think Decisive Victory might be also possible. So let's make it easier for myself and go with Decisive Victory. So, with all that said, the white die will be for the Helion Expatriate, the black die will be for the Sand Kingdoms. Let's see who wins the initiative. 32 against 22, therefore the Helion Expatriate wins the initiative. And they decide, since the deployments are already chosen, that the Sand Kingdoms should start deploying, and therefore they will also decide that the Sand Kingdoms should deploy all of the party at once. And with this, since the Sand Kingdoms cannot choose which side, because I already agreed that the Helion are the defenders, is that the Sand Kingdoms has no choice left. So let me deploy the parties, and then I'll let you join for the first turn of the Sand Kingdoms. As you can see, the Sand Kingdoms deployed in a circle around them, and the Vizier decided to conjure up a Gargoyle, who will automatically receive the Personal Guard upgrade, but this is not important right now. And the Helion Expatriates, or the Helion League, adjusted the deployment by basically the Citadel Guard is positioned here to counter the Void Dancer and the Void Caster. The Helion just has to hold the line, and the Hierophant will try her best to keep the party alive, to gain the Decisive Victory as a scheme, and also to blast the enemies. I had one oversight, so therefore I have to roll a die, because the camp raid quest has the global condition rule, which means that I have to roll a die and see if maybe an environment is in effect for this game. It's a 20, there is an environment effect, and it is the freezing environment. And the freezing environment says at the environment PDF, at the environment PDF freezing during its strategic phase, a model in this environment must perform a toughness roll with a positive modifier equal to its armor value. Models of the creature class cannot add armor to this roll. If failed, the model becomes fatigued until its next strategic phase. Models with 1 or more wounds must perform a toughness roll at the beginning of the turn. If failed, they suffer 1 wound. So, this is quite a dire condition because the fatigue means that they would normally gain not any activation points, and also with 1 or more wounds must perform a toughness roll at the beginning of the turn. If failed, they suffer 1 wound. This means basically 1 bad roll and the Vizier of Conjuration is down. So, with all this said, let's jump right into the first turn of the Sand Kingdoms. I will just put out the activation points and range it, and during its strategic phase. Okay, so only when it's their turn they have to make a roll. The environment alone could be the reason why the Sand Kingdoms lose this. Models with 1 or more wound must perform a toughness roll at the beginning of their turn. If failed, they suffer 1 wound. So, 1 wound would mean definitely that the Sand Kingdoms is down. And let's see how quickly this will happen. So, the Vizier of Conjuration, toughness 8. 17, she's down. Okay, that would be quite easy. So she would go down, no summonings, here's no first aid kit, therefore the Sand Kings would lose. I will just ignore this because the environment roll would with a result of 1 to 10 would be none, and that would mean that basically the game would be played normal. Hazy is another option on an 11 to 15, and Hazy would have meant that, where it is, range attacks cannot target model through this environment. So basically range attack is difficult, melee attacks get a -3, and it does not affect models with a flying or flicker state or their abilities. 16 to 19 would be dark. I see there is overlap with the 19 would be also scorching and 20 would be freezing. So basically this was a 5% chance for the Sand Kingdoms to automatically lose, more or less. So I will just continue the game with no environment, as I originally thought when I put these parties together. So with all this said, let's get into the game. The Vizier of Conjuration will start. She will store up 1 activation point and get a mana token, and then she will use this mana token immediately. Actually no, she will not use, because in her strategic phase she will use her stratagem of temporary of refined conjuration. Mana cost of conjuration spells is reduced by 1 and with this she will then spend this mana token immediately to cast a ritual spell. And this ritual spell, let me just put down the tablet to receive a golem. And with the golem, she's allowed, because of her Staff of Conjuration, to place it anywhere within its awareness, and her awareness is 10. So she will put it 6 inches up to here, immediately into the face of the Helion League, and the golem immediately also gets activation points. Next, he will cast Spectral Blade onto himself in the activation phase, and I believe she has, with that end, also Artificer, she will use her Art of Enchantment Elder to cast Arcane Shield at her. I really have to get my rules together So with this, she will try to ignore the Citadel Guard and make a walk action of 6 inches up to here before she will try to cast her, let me just see which spell she will use. 4 inches, 10 inches, 6 inches. She could strike the Hierophant with her Spectral Greatsword spell, Sweep, Armor Piercing, Stagger, or she could try the Void Lance, 10 inches, Armor Piercing, and hits all target within the line. She will try the Spectral Greatsword attack, which has the sweep of 1, and this will cause the Hierophant, who has an agility of 14. And I have to check because the Hierophant has the Clairvoyance ability, she is allowed to react and also to use template attacks, and she will use the, let me see, the Smite, Casting Aura, and Circular Large is a sorcery range with targetless and armor piercing and burn 1 show. So she will react by attacking herself, and the Citadel Guard will, since it's a smite, what does the protect rule says? Charge of an attack, this model reactive roll. This model can spend an activation point to move into base contact with the ally. By doing this, the model becomes the new target of the attack action, but it doesn't matter because the sweep affects all, so therefore she will keep her ability. If I make a mistake here, let me please know in the comments, because I want to improve my gameplay too. So, the black die is for the Voidcaster and her Spectral Sword, and the white die is for the Hierophant, who's allowed to turn, and her Smite. So let's see. Natural 1 for the Voidcaster, and a 15, which would have been enough because of her intelligence of 16, but the natural 1 wins the confrontation. Natural 1 wins the confrontation against the 15. So, with this, the Spectral Greatsword wins. It has a power of intelligence plus 2. Therefore, intelligence is 12 for the Voidcaster. With this, it's a total of 14, ignoring the armor. Otherwise, it would have armor piercing and would have half the armor form. But no, it is ignored, so therefore 14 or less to wound. With a 10, it is enough to wound the Hierophant, who is out immediately incapacitated, and because of the stagger rule, she loses her last activation. That was successful and very important. Next, let's see how we are doing this. The Gargoyle will use a run action, 6 inches up to here and 4 inches up to here. And the Golem will use a walk action with a speed of 3 to get into combat with the Helion Expatriate. And the Golem has an offense of 10, boosted by the Soldier, it is 11. Therefore he will attack the Helion Expatriate. The Helion Expatriate will use an attack by himself, try to defend himself. The Golem has 2 attacks, the Expatriate has 1. Golem needs an 11 or less, the Helion a 13. A 13 of the Expatriate is enough to win this confrontation. It's a 20 and a 5. Therefore the Helion wins. Power of 12 minus the armor of 8, 4 or less to wound. It's a 14, which is not enough. And just putting away the activation point. excuse me. Then he should keep in mind that he has to dodge to revive the Hierophant, but with her 6 inches, she will walk up to here and cast another Spectral Greatsword with 3 inches, or will she cast a void? By the way, she has 2 inches reach, so she could basically target the Hierophant, or also could get into base contact. I will just put you down to get both of my hands to read up on the coup de grace, on the death blow. Is a normal action. Okay, so basically she will just walk into contact. Action that incapacitate enemy model into the dead state. The model must be in base contact with an incapacitated model. This action, the target is incapacitated and is automatically rendered dead. No roll required. So, I will just have a quick read up, because it's a normal action, no attack. Yeah, with this, sad but true, the Hierophant is dead because the Citadel Guard is not allowed to use a protector skill, because it is not an attack, it's a death blow action. If you disagree with this, also please comment down in the below. I'm curious about this ruling of mine. But let's continue. So basically now the Helion League is fighting for survival, as if they wasn't before. And now the Golem will attack again. This time the Helion Expatriate will not react to... Actually, he will not react, but the Citadel Guard will react, use her protector skill, become the target of the attack, and by doing with this, she will defend. And this might be quite an interesting ruling, because none of them is in base contact and has only reach of melee, but since she becomes the target of the attack, I do not think that she is allowed to react accordingly to it. But the Golem will attack with 2 strikes. He has to make an agility because of the Hyperia Providence. With a 6, he's allowed to keep his 2 attacks. And he gets a mana 3 because of the shield and a mana 3 for the fencing. Therefore, +1 for the soldier, -5 in total. So it's a 5 or less to hit. A 6 and a 2. The 2 is enough to hit the Citadel Guard, who has base armor of 6. And does the shield add anything to it? No. So therefore, 1 hit, armor 6, power of 15, 9 or less to wound. It's a 10, therefore it is not enough to wound the Citadel Guard. Next, the Ferrous Outrider will use a run action to get into contact with the Helion Expatriate, and he then, let's see how to do this. The Gargoyle will take a walk action into contact with the Citadel Guard and will attack her. The Citadel Guard, I just put away the activation point, will react by attacking herself. She has 2 attacks. The Gargoyle normally also has 2 attacks, making an agility roll. For the Gargoyle, with a 4 it is enough, so it is allowed to keep its 2 attacks. The Gargoyle has, because of the soldier, an offense of 13. The Citadel Guard has a defense of 17. 15, and the Gargoyle fails with a 16 to roll below its stat, so therefore the Citadel Guard managed to hit once. Because she used the small bludgeon, armor piercing halves the gargoyle's armor value of 5, therefore 2.5. Power 15 minus 3. One way or another, 3 is enough to destroy the gargoyle. And the personal guard gets back to the Vizier of Conjuration. Now, the Pharaoh's Outrider will activate. He will attack with his Spectral Blade. And once again, the Citadel Guard will use her Protector ability to activate and take the hit. And the Heron will also activate and will use a dodge action. Why is he doing a dodge action? Basically just to get out of melee range. He's allowed to move 2.5 inches, so basically he goes here. And the Citadel Guard, as I said, will take the hit. She's not in contact with the Pharaoh's Outrider, therefore the Pharaoh's Outrider has to make an agility roll. With an 11, it is enough to keep his 2 attacks, minus 6, so his offense of 14 is reduced to 8. 2 15s is not enough to hit the Citadel Guard. So, and with this is the first turn of the Sand Kingdoms. Sorry that it was such a long turn, but they already lost the Hierophant, which is really bad, and now they have to see how they can turn this game around. So let me prepare the turn for the Helion League, and I'll let you join them.